Growing up, we've always been told that we eat with our eyes, with presentations, everything. Today, I get to chat to the man that the industry calls him the ideas man, the person who the market calls him one of the most influential young people that we have in this country. We get to chat to Mzo Ntuli, a man that I met a couple of years ago, about who he really is. And the amazing what that has been able to do, we get to speak to him about the grooming social, and we get to speak to him about the life that he's had over the years after moving from KZN all the way to Johannesburg, and to pursue this life that all of us are in pursuit of, which is the life of gold. So, thanks for your time and welcome to Conversation with Nnusi.
Thank you so much, my brother. It's good to be here. I was actually just thinking when you were doing the intro that my first radio interview ever was with you
Oh wow! Yes, you were
at
right.
Madrid.
In Madrid, and I think we were chatting about Africa Month. We
Yes.
were discussing Africa Month, how time has flown. I mean,
A
uh,
good 10 years ago.
a good 10 years ago, and 10 years later, we're sitting here again, and I'm having another chat with you, but about something completely different.
Yes.
But we'll get to to speak about that something different.
Yes.
Just so we get to understand exactly who you are. So, who's in Zone 2? Where are you from? Where were you born?
Okay. I was born in Tart.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I was born in Tart in the Eastern Cape. I spent majority of my growing up in Eastern Cape, and then over time we moved to KZN.
Okay.
So our family has homes in both provinces, but we're
Mm,
from the Eastern Cape.
okay.
I'm a Jimmy comes to Joe.
Okay.
I'm a Jimmy comes to Joe. Yeah.
So I mean, you were born in Tata, and then spent some time there, and then moved to KZN.
Yeah.
As a lighty growing up, I mean, I think all of us, when you grow up, you wanted to become doctors, lawyers, policemen, nurses, and so forth. What did you want to become when growing up?
My my unconscious mind at the time when I thought of what the future is for me.
Hmm.
I always wanted to be part of something that creates a change,
Okay.
something that's brilliant, something that is a wow factor, something that moves society to the next level.
Hmm.
I actually realized I was attracted to the world of creativity at a young age.
Hmm.
Looking at the type of programs that I watched on television and the type of characters that I was drawn to. Even when we started experiencing alternative music in the space, characters like Andre 3000,
Yeah.
Pharrell Williams in the broader global space,
Hmm.
I was attracted to. And in some cases, I wasn't necessarily enjoying so much of the person's music. Yes, I'd love a couple of their tracks, but I found that guy stylish. I found him different. I found him to be unique. I found
Hmm.
him, and those type of influential artists in music and television are people that inspire me. And at a younger age, I didn't understand as to why. And I suppose the inverse over growth in time is that I was basically becoming
Hmm.
who those people were. So I've always been attracted to the space that I'm in, and I'm very lucky to have that type of resonance.
Sure. Um, and I think, I mean, at that time we didn't understand what this, what that gold meant, or what that gold identified, or what it resonated. Um, so, so post post high school, and then going to higher institution, then what did you study?
I did public relations and media.
Okay.
I wanted to do advertising, but I felt that advertising is too linear to what advertising can be.
Mm.
So I chose my my first passion was interior design.
Okay.
than advertising, but I chose PR and media to be diplomatic, so that I can tell my parents that I'm doing
Something,
a
yeah.
course that is slightly bigger than the others,
Mm.
because I felt that interior design is too linear. It's about design.
Yeah.
Are my parents going to understand? Advertising is also just direct on advertising and so on. As far as it has different components, but at the time, advertising was a very thin subject
Yeah.
matter. I mean, I studied from year 2005 to year 2008 in tertiary.
Mm.
And I think when I went into the working world, the start of my career was fashion. And fashion was an interest that I had in tertiary.
Okay.
Um, I had close relationships with designers. What designers would see in me is a stylish guy that they can start some of their sample clothing with,
Mm.
who then can be, someone who shows what they've done, and therefore there's an influence to that. Who's it made by? It's made by this designer. Make contact with them.
Mm.
Little did I know that I'm actually building myself to be attractive enough for a fashion house when I came in Joburg.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, um, 2005, 2008, you then studied public relations and media. Because I mean, let's also be honest, our parents were never about that life. Our parents wanted you to go study something that they one understood and knew. I mean, you can't come home and say, I'm doing advertising, I'm doing interior design, because to them that did not seem like, you know, careers that you could pursue and careers that you could make a living out of. So 2008, you then finish and you graduate, and then when did you move to Joburg?
So just on the previous point, I had a special moment when my mother was praying
Okay.
this one time, and she literally said, "This is the creative one in the family, God. He is different from the rest."
Okay.
And I pray for growth and opportunity in his career. The
Mm.
strange thing is that blessing also gave me some relief toward that. Okay, she actually accepts that.
I'm different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I love that. But going back to your question on what were the further next steps in Johannesburg, I suppose you come here and you don't have the experience. You have the drive, you have the passion, you've got a bag, and maybe you've came by a bus, or maybe an uncle has dropped you off,
Mm.
or maybe family has dropped you off. However, way you've made it to here, you've got a perception toward how this city is going to work. But when you actually come here, you're the one who's not ready for the city.
Yeah. True. Then all of us can
So,
relate to that.
the big thing was work experience, setting foot, knowing the right people, and
Mm.
at that time, the big drive was to get to know as many amazing people in the industry, and like I was obsessed about who are the big people, who's winning awards in creative, who owns that agency, who's doing that advert, who. And I remember we actually formed a group of friends where our biggest thing was to really study the industry and to get to know the people.
Mm.
At that time, the world we are in now was so far from us. I would take a taxi from Braamfontein and go to Rosebank, and I didn't have a cent to buy myself a pair of sneakers because I was not working.
Yeah.
And I felt like, when am I going to get to be able to actually go out and have lunch and dinner in Rosebank, besides just walking around the neighborhood and finding some inspiration? It was a fashion house in Rosebank that had an internship. They were looking for a writer and somebody who can assist with PR and marketing to be part of their team. I applied, I went to the interview, the guys liked me, they told me on the spot that we're going to hire you. I started with that job. It was big exposure for me as far as terminology exposure goes. I got to see some people who I'd only seen on TV walk into the establishment because
Mm.
they work with this fashion house.
Yeah.
So we organized the year-end functions for the students. We promoted the course material and activity of the institute. So it was a fashion house slash fashion school, still is running today.
Mm.
Um, it's called Studio 05 House of Fashion. It's a black-owned business, so it competes with your Lysops. And the head of the creative division there is actually a great friend and mentor of mine, who's a big creative director in the industry.
Mm.
And I was speaking to him about where I want to go in advertising. So I was like, okay, no, cool. I'll keep my fillers out. If anything comes along, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
There was a job opening at an agency called Cullen and Cullen. They were
Yes.
looking for
I remember.
social media PR analyst. But the step in there was also still through my background in fashion. So the agency had its own brand, which is a jewelry brand that the founders of the agency had invested in, and they were looking for someone to purely manage that
Yeah.
and attract the US and the UK market. But there, I also worked on other accounts. Some of the biggest accounts that I worked on was Carlin Black Cable being a coach company. I was part of the launch team alongside Ogilvy, who had the above the line contract for that.
Mm.
It's the biggest campaign that I worked on. I got to learn a lot. So then I started getting into advertising. I've been in advertising for what would be 11 years now. I mean, I moved from Cullen and Cullen. I went into Cape Town.
Mm.
I went into a 360 digital agency called Platinum Seed. My job role grew more into strategy, more into content, more into campaign, more into a client facing role, and more into interacting with the business and presenting the strategic piece, the content piece, the campaign planning with the clients.
Yeah.
Um, we had at that time about 80% of Edward's small account, which is one of the biggest distributors in the industry.
Mm.
They distribute alcohol, so we worked across all of their alcohol brands. We also went into the Nigerian, the Kenyan market with that particular account.
Mm.
Yeah, so I mean a lot of growth. I came back to Joburg after Cape Town, and I worked at S2E4, which is
Yeah.
one of the biggest digital businesses in the country. There, I became more of a lead strategist role. I worked on two of the biggest automotive brands. I also worked on some of the FMCG brands, under Modelis, also campaign focused, strategic led. And then, I moved into some other agencies as well, where, I've worked on your MTNs, I've worked on your Vodacoms, I've done the lead strategic direction for Vodacom content division.
So I mean, we I want us to heavily unpack this new role that you are seeing, right?
Yeah.
But before we get to that point, maybe let's just take a one or two steps back and really speak about so the entrepreneur.
Yes.
Had you always wanted to become an entrepreneur? Have you always been an entrepreneur? Was it something that you stumbled upon when you moved to Johannesburg, or was it something that's always been there for you?
You know, we we go out and we look for a job opportunity, and in some cases we don't really look for ourselves,
Mm.
and we don't really spend the time finding ourselves. I've actually realized over the time that um, what I have been seeking is to create business opportunities,
Mm.
to create, whether it's for the business I'm working for or for my own self, but far bigger than this 9 to 5 thing.
Mm.
Um, by nature of you're looking at what the opportunities are in and around you, and you might be at the office desk, but because of the networks and the contacts that you've built, somebody's popping you a message saying, "Hey, here's an opportunity that I want to chat to you about."
Mm.
And I suppose the entrepreneurial journey, as much as I'm the one who spearheaded it, but I suppose it also found itself
Within
by
you.
virtue of getting to know people like yourself who then interact with me above and beyond as to what my role is. And you can't ignore those type of opportunities if you're a person that seeks more.
Mm.
And I think as young individuals, we are only dreaming this amount, and there's bigger things that we should do. And
Yeah.
for me, the drive is to do more,
Mm.
to do bigger. So I then started taking those risks. I started taking risks where I've left, the full-time job and gone into more consulting, more partnerships with other entrepreneurs, more building an entrepreneurial journey. And at the start of it, it was purely around the idea and the passion. And as I grew up, I went into it more around what is the actual business case here
Mm.
and how do we build a business.
And I'm asking this question because I think when you and I met, 10, 11 years ago, as you spoke in the beginning, that the first interview that you had was with me on radio, and we were discussing Africa Month. But then a few months later, you and I then collaborated on another campaign where you owned an entity called Young Minds Creative. I think that's what it was called.
Yeah.
And then I was this young boy who had dreams and ambitions of starting a supporters branch in Midrand for one of the biggest football clubs in this country,
Yes.
Sky Chiefs at the time.
Yes.
And we, I remember we went to another establishment and we said to them we wanted to host matches here every weekend.
Yes. Yes.
Can that happen? And they opened the doors. I mean, I was going through my stuff this past week, funny enough, and I still have some of the stuff that you guys produced, right?
Yes.
Where we hosted some of the biggest match view experiences that the establishment is still using even today. They're still looking at that. Um, so I was asking that question purely based on the fact that has it always been something you wanted to do, or was it just by chance? Because most of us, we leave our respective homes, we come to Johannesburg or to Gauteng as a province in pursuit of this goal, right? And then when we get here, we then discover other things about ourselves, because we're in this foreign land that none of us grew up in, and you then instantly tap into survival mode, right? And that survival mode means you do whatever it takes to make sure that you're not eaten, but you are the one that gets to eat at the end of it all. So then you then spoke about how you then move from one agency to another agency, and during this period, then you start collaborating with like-minded people who've got other ideas about, growing themselves and growing their businesses. A couple of years ago, I got an invite from you to come to the Grooming Social, right?
Yes.
Which is something that I've never heard of, something that I didn't even know existed.
Sure.
So maybe the first question that we should ask ourselves is, or that we should answer here is, one, what is the Grooming Social, and how did that come about?
The Grooming Social is a platform purely based on conversations.
Okay.
So we found a unique proposition to build a progressive conversation platform.
Okay.
And how it started is that we looked at where do we as men go for the right type of conversation as we grow in our different stages in life. So if you're going into lobol, if you're going into marriage, if you're going into having a kid, if you're going into a new job, etc. Where do you find that support base?
Mm.
Where do you go to have a progressive conversation away from your immediate family and friends
Yeah.
in a structured platform environment, and get to learn and know from others? That was the initial thinking. We then developed it and we realized that it can't be only centered around we live in a universe and an environment where we've got male and we've got female counterparts. So we need to make this platform bigger than our own
Yes.
initial ideation.
Mm.
So we expanded the platform to have a variety of themes, all the way from arts, business, culture, design, entertainment to the good life, that we center around what the conversation is going to be about.
Mm.
And then we also take time to research as to where are we in society, what are the right type of conversations to spark, and how do we center this platform to actually be attractive for corporate to partner with us because of what we've built. So today, we have a unique following. So what's really unique about the platform is that we've got an existing audience base that comes to our events, whether it's virtual or whether in this world it's an event that fits the COVID regulation, or whether it's a partnership. And we're very lucky that we actually don't pay for that audience.
Yeah.
That audience opts in and comes
Yeah.
because of what we've built and the value that they see. So we then say to corporate, what you get out of here is to have a progressive conversation around your brand by real people in a real time, in a real environment. And it's not a promotional type of thing. It's not a Q&A type of insight. It's not a what have you spent on in the last 5 months.
Yeah.
It's about what attracts you and what is your behavior as a person in that notion of spending to go out and spend it. You know what I mean? So we look at rich conversations and we also look at robust and real conversations. I mean, we've spoken about men of trust. We've spoken about gender-based violence. We've spoken about, and it's not only a hard topics. So we also bring in light, beautiful topics. We've spoken about design in an African context, and we look for the underdog. So the type of speaker that we have there is somebody who's extremely well versed in what they do, but they're not necessarily celebrated.
Okay.
Because we never wanted to build a celebrity platform.
Yeah.
But we want that realness. And we want the person who is palatable enough to meet us halfway in what we're doing and our audience.
Okay.
And I think our audience today directs a lot of how we actually structure the platform because we realize we need to let go of the notion that we own it and we develop it, and we've built direct feedback channels and Q&A channels and getting to speak to our audience to say, hey, how do you think we can make this better?
Yeah.
So we've been running that for 4 years now. On a year calendar in Johannesburg, we have one edition per quarter. So that gives us 4 editions in the year. In between that, we have partnership editions that would link to various activities. So, example, Women's Month, we do something bespoke for only our female audience. If it's a spring edition, we do something different. So that's where we have the unique partnership opportunity. We just did one at end of April, which is called the Art and Wine edition. That was linked to a separate entity, which we've launched through the platform that we'll go into. But I suppose, like any other platform owner, if you look at the guys from San Fran and what they've built across the social media network, as a business person, you realize that you have to build a form of transactional revenue through the platform.
Ultimately, yeah.
To sustain the platform and also to build more equity around it. You know, whether it's subscription model, whether it's building it more into a separate type of base away from that conversation element only. Because what was happening is that the partnerships with corporate were only through the eventing times and not constant. And it would take us so long to get to be in a room to pitch to a corporate and for the corporate to see it.
Yeah.
And you'd find that the right people who are going to make the decision of investment are occupied. And along the value chain, the people who are introducing you to those people have got the time to interact with you, but it doesn't get to the sign.
Yeah.
So those are learnings as to where partnerships are, and we've never necessarily positioned it as sponsorship, but we do as partnership because we feel that it's a joint type of thing.
I mean, I want to chat to you about another interesting thing that I came across. And I touched on entrepreneurship right at the beginning of this part where we spoke about the grooming social. So all of us are accustomed to 9 to 5, right? So where we wake up in the morning, we go to a job that keeps the lights on, that pays us salary at the end of the month. Then you guys came about and we flipped the script on its head, and then we introduced the 5 to 9ers in partnership with Liberty. So how did that come about, and what was the driving force behind that, and what did you want to achieve?
Great. So I mean that's a great example of how partnership has worked for us. We had always been in chats with a few people in the Liberty business that are in their PR division in regard to our platform.
Yeah.
And some of those people had attended our platform
Okay.
and found our platform amazing. And they were in the background also thinking as to how could we partner with the producers. We found ourselves presenting the Grooming Social to the broader team. And at that time was actually a time where they were going into a new product launch campaign.
Okay.
And they said, we've got an upcoming campaign,
Favorite platform. Yeah.
perfect platform, you've got the audience, you've got the right type of people around this, you've got the case that we can do from an ROI perspective within our business.
Mm.
Here is a brief, this is the product that we launched. How can you interpret it? So I won't go into detail as to what their product IP is.
Yeah. No.
But basically, um, the product is one that was looking at individuals who have dual income. We're looking at protection of your dual income. To say, hey, let's communicate with individuals and let's propose this product where you're working full time, you've got a side hustle, and now you're making money from this side hustle. It's coming in. Maybe it started from just by weekend, but now you're making more money over the 7 day period than to the 30-day period.
Yeah.
How are you protecting that side?
Mm.
So, us having a background in advertising and being marketers and brands people, then we sat down, we conceptualized what could the campaign be, and we said, look, it's actually the 5 to 9 time.
Mm.
And the 5 to 9 time is not necessarily the physical 5 to 9 time.
Mm.
Someone's 5 to 9 is 2 to 7.
Yeah. It varies
It varies.
from one person to the other.
And someone's is 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. So we said, okay, cool, there's unique insights around this individual. And guess what? We've got this individual at our platform.
We are the individual.
We are the individual. Yeah. We do that ourselves. So I mean, we then had a three-tiered campaign that we rolled out with Liberty, all based on community engagement, and of course the element of insight. And some of those tiers included a dinner, 5 to 9 dinner,
Okay.
where we had a conversation in sparking. What does the 5 to 9 mean to you?
And what does it look like?
What does it look like? How do you orchestrate the 5 to 9? What have you learned from the 5 to 9? In a dinner setting, and I mean, what was extremely conceptual about that is that the chef which we worked with, we challenged to present a meal that signifies the 5 to 9. Now, he went into depth detail around the type of fish that he made. It was a bottom feeder fish. And the bottom feeder fish are the ones who basically, by default of being bottom feeders, they clean the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you're gonna work your way up,
Yeah.
but you're starting from somewhere,
bottom, yeah.
not the side. Yeah. You know what I mean? So such things, and then from then we had a panel discussion on the event day where we brought in certain entrepreneurs, people who are. She's a mother, she's a business owner, she works at one of the top financial institutes in the country, yet she still managed to produce in her business. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I suppose that is a beautiful example of how we can work with the corporate to access the right type of engagement through the community that we build. Yeah.
I mean, in the 4 years that you've been running the Grooming Social, we've seen the evolution, and I call it evolution because I'm trying to find the right way to it, and I think evolution signifies that perfectly. Then out of the Grooming Social, then came out the TGS selection.
Yeah.
What is that?
TDS selection is a spirit and wine business that keeps me today more busy than other businesses that I'm developing.
Okay.
So with the platform events, we always did our best to have a drinks partner involved. Because aside from the conversation, hey, it's a Saturday, let's unwind, let's have a glass of wine, let's have a whiskey. And those drinks partners, together with us, introduced some bespoke and boutique and unique elements to our offering, where now it becomes a tasting, where now it becomes an activation for that business. And we've worked with some big businesses, even from brands from an SAB perspective, who've identified our platform as an activation platform.
Yeah.
and that became a transactional revenue element. But what I realize is that we've built a network of spirits and wine partners, and these spirits and wine partners seek to engage this audience. Yes, there's an activation element that happens at the platform once off when we do it. But I thought to myself, where are these businesses sitting post that? What are they doing? What is their yearly plan? And I realized one of the easiest ways in which I could get into the business of spirits and wine is building a separate entity platform where these businesses, these brands and products can be presented and listed. And then use the existing channel of the Grooming social to promote those products. But it has to be unique products. So the element of selection in TGS selection is that we select every product that's listed on our website. We're an e-commerce portal. We identify ourselves as a local spirit and wine portal. It's only in campaign period when we work with corporates that we look at products that are out of the local sphere purely to service that particular campaign. But we do local, we do artisan, we do small batch, we do boutique, we do have mainstream wine farms that are well known. But even in that category, we still choose a particular type of wine. Because the whole thing is that you shouldn't walk into some of the popular retailers and find what we have right there at the shelf. Because majority of those wines that are there are not necessarily the best quality. They mass produce volume drivers, and they're not made in a manner that gives them a certain story and quality for this individual who wants to learn a little bit more about wine, who wants to pair their wine, who wants to collect wine, who wants to appreciate the wine. You know what I mean? Including the spirits. We've got a fair amount of distillers that we present, and local distillers. Some of those brands are black owned that our customers have then found over time to be their favorite drinks. Like literally, we've got a turnover of customer base who moves from buying wines and spirits in a certain place and then identifying our platform as the place.
It's the go-to place,
You know, and we've been running the e-commerce business for a year now. We've got a lot of learnings there. We've diversified our distribution and supply network. You know, I mean, our partners are wine farms, wineries direct. We've got distributors who we work with. We've got independent producers, the actual winemaker, and then we have the distilleries I've mentioned. Then we also manage the fulfillment, the logistics elements, where we work with local couriers and national couriers for that. And then we're now getting into a very interesting corporate gifting space and rewards program partnership space that we're developing ourselves. But the future there is retail. And I think the past year has actually been building and buffing up a portfolio to work itself toward it. Purely because e-commerce is probably an easier maybe for me who has a digital background step to get a business into and present something, and you'll always be challenged even when you present your portfolio in your web. Do you have a website? Where can I see your stuff? So we fulfilled that, but at the end of the day, I think in order for us to scale and reach a broader network outside of our primary and our partnership built network and new clientele that comes, that we need to have a physical store that will also boost the trust element, because some of the entities that we buy from in the spirits and liquor space are purely because I've seen that shop at the corner there. Oh yeah. So when you go to another city, you're like, where can I find the closest XYZ? Because you bought from wherever you stayed and you walk into there. You know, so we can't deny that bricks and mortar in this type of environment is still the leading customer fulfillment.
I mean, to your point, I mean, I think we've always been told, I mean, and if you look at what the country and what the world has gone through over the past, 14, 15 months, is that e-commerce is the way to go, and the numbers can prove that e-commerce is the place to go. However, that does not discount the fact that bricks and mortar business still becomes, an important part of customer relations and customer trust. Because if I've never seen your store anywhere, chance of me buying from you, especially if I don't know you, are very slim, right? So I think to your point, that element of knowing that I can walk into a store that I can buy stuff from and I can still order stuff online from them, also it gives me a level of comfort. But so you and I can then have a full conversation the whole day about you and the things that we be able to achieve for yourself. If you were to look in the mirror today and see the younger version of yourself, what would you tell yourself? What would you say to your younger self?
um, I think you know the younger version of myself had a closer emotion toward purely ideas and wanting to achieve the beauty of an idea and not so much the functional and the structure of what a business can be.
Okay.
Um, and I think a lot of us who have a creative nature have an emotion toward being attached to something and wanting it
Mm.
to succeed. So I would tell myself to be less emotional toward what an idea looks like.
uh,
Because the people who've gone out and made it to be the top billionaires in the world and top millionaires do not operate in that manner.
yeah.
And they make their investment where the bigger capital is going to be.
Mm.
And I think a lot of us make our investment where the emotion is and where the dream is.
Mm.
And you get so stuck in that dream and that idea that you can spend a bit of time just actually getting out of that. And the beauty is to learn and overcome that. And then you become a far bigger version of yourself. So I would tell myself to not be so emotionally attached to ideas.
Sure. And what would you want to be remembered for? So when all is said and done, what would you want the world to remember you as?
Look, we have a narrative to tell as well. And I think the the whole thing of being black and being in business and creating change should not necessarily be an exchange that's not worth it. So it's not about support black
Because it's black.
because it's black. You know. But I would like to be remembered as a young man who made impact in society through every other industry that I worked in. And I would like to be remembered for building a legacy and for being one of those people who are legacy identified and who own a larger portfolio in the industry as the counterparts who have colonized and who have run this economy up.
Mm.
Because some of the biggest white-owned businesses, basically own everything around us.
Yeah.
In the world of advertising, there are few big entities that you can count who own as far as the activation business, the PR business, the advertising business, the media supply, including a portion of the consumer business to make that business work. So you sit and you analyze these things and these guys have set up generational wealth for themselves.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'd like to add there is that, and this is not something that many people might agree with, but I think we're stuck in the notion of intellectual and academic IP, yet we want to make a significant change in economy. And there's somebody out there who's basically invested for their children, and their children have gone into that business, and they're not going through the system that we go through that we think is
We need
going
to
to
follow.
give
Yeah.
us economic growth. And me having grown up in the rural area, in the township area, and then staying in suburbs and experiencing what it means to be black all across that, knows exactly how that can limit us as a people.
Mm.
Because our parents today still have an expectation that you're going to get an MBA, you're going to get a PhD, and then wow, you know,
With the achieve.
let's do a slaughter celebration for that. Whilst our counterparts are simply opening up the biggest hardware shop at the corner, and that's not like the academic mind saying let me do that. That's the business mind.
Mm.
But that person becomes the owner of the economy in the space. So I suppose me sharing that second one is to say I would like to build that type of legacy upon my family and the people around me. We just really have to wake up to far more equity ownership in what's happening around us in very important.
Sure. I met you 10 years ago. You were smart, with a bit of hair. 10 years later, 10 years later, I can see why the hair is disappearing, because there's a lot of wisdom that comes with you, and that comes with aging as well. But I think, I was inspired by you 10 years ago when we spoke about Africa Month. I was inspired by you in our dealings together. I've been inspired by you throughout this whole campaign, or throughout this whole journey, rather. And I remember the other day we did a campaign, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, around gender-based violence.
Oh yeah, oh yes,
It was
yes, yes.
the Protected campaign
Yes.
that you and I have worked on
Yes.
together. So I've been following and piecing all of these things together now, and realize, and I really get to a point where I really understand that, so it is men like you, who continue to walk the journey before all of us, who are then able to pave the way for those that are coming behind us. And my wish for you is that may this legacy that you want to build, become a reality. And may this journey that you're on, really come to fruition. May this thing that you want to achieve for yourself and for those that are working with you and for those that are coming behind you, become something that you can live, to see. Because Minteriabulabo. So the works of our hands have become evident and become byproduct of the things that we do. So I wish you well on this journey. May the grooming social, grow and bigger, and not just become another platform where all of us can come and congregate and have conversations, but may it be a movement, that all of us, can relate to. May it be a movement that all of us can affiliate with, and maybe something that all of us are able to identify ourselves with. So keep shining, my friend. Wishing you everything of the best, and we draw inspiration from people like you, because we are because you are. So keep shining, and all the best of luck with whatever future endeavors that you have.
Thank you so much, Dante. It's appreciated. And thanks for having me, man. It's beautiful to reflect 10 years later. Um, yeah, and it's just beautiful to be in this space, to think about where one was then and where one is now.
Yeah.
We have to celebrate the growth.
And we celebrate you in the process.
Sure.
Right. Yes, this was Conversation with Nnusi, and we had a chat with one of the most inspirational, influential human beings, Mzo Ntuli. You can follow him on all social media platforms. It's at Mzo Ntuli, and also check out the Grooming Social and TGS Selection as well, to see the variety of spirits and wines and other things that they sell there. So let's do it again next week. Remember to subscribe to our Conversations with Nnusi on YouTube as well as Spotify. Keep shining.